it's not good. They're not a very confident and not a very happy people. It is not 2020, even 2019, but it's not even fucking 2015. You know what I'm saying? When it was Trump season, 10 million people, whatever the fuck he wanted to say, were at inauguration and shit, and millions of red-haired college students screaming at the fucking sky that he fucking won. It's like not that anymore. He doesn't have that kind of like support. A lot of those people are dead. Like, fuck, dude, it's been 8 years, man. You know how many fucking 90-year-olds kicked it in the last, like that's your base. That's your voting base. And like a lot of young people aren't like hardcore Republican, and a lot of the young people that are like, they say they're pro fucking conservative values and shit, they just can't even fucking vote because they're like under 18, or they're just too fucking insipid and lazy to get off of Helldivers 2 for more than 5 minutes to go to the polls, which is, hey, that's a fucking win for me. Okay. I gotta stop talking about the 90s. We'll be on this forever. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to do the Trump voice. It's to welcome everybody. Donald Trump has done it again. In a move that surprises absolutely nobody. The article just says, absolute bloodbath at RNC, that's a Republican National Convention, as new leadership loyal to Trump purges staff. Now, I was telling you guys there's a bunch more of you now. But back in fucking 6 months ago, when we had just a few people, I was like, this Daniel Cameron election. Daniel Cameron was the Republican that was running against Andy Beshear here in Kentucky to summate a very complicated gubernatorial challenge. Beshear was probably always going to win, but they didn't give Daniel Cameron, who is a black man, a lot of money to run on. I can't remember what the numbers were, but basically he was outspent by somewhere in the ballpark of about $5 million, if I remember the numbers correctly, which was a lot because the entire amount spent was like $7 million by the Beshear campaign. So one of the lowest cost gubernatorial challenge runs in America in basically prediction year, so to say, for the upcoming election that was going to happen. This was like one of the last major election moments was that last November that we just went through before primary season for the Republicans, and then a shitload of House seats and the presidential seat and a few gubernatorial seats, I believe. Just a shit ton of things that are all fucking hitting midnight basically at once this year. Now, when I was talking about then is he got outspent real bad, and it's not because there was not enough will to spend for him. Now, that might be somewhat of the case. Republicans are terrible at getting small donations from like small donor contributions because they're paid for by the big dogs. But if the big dogs can't spend money where they want, if they don't feel like they need to spend money on you, or if they've already spent their money on you, they might not spend their money on you again. And in the months leading up to that, we had repeated Trump losses, Trump lawsuits beginning, Trump lawsuits ending, Trump filing bankruptcy. And we came to find out, of course, that Republican donors were largely paying for his legal bills as a way to keep him alive, basically, and keep his political career on life support in order to get him to run for president. Now, that wouldn't be that big of a deal for most candidates because I think in general, if it's worth the cost, people will do it. For most people, probably the largest amount of money they're going to see in some sort of like civil or criminal litigation, whatever the fuck, when it ends and there's an award given, is like $1 million, and then maybe like $1 million on top of that in like lawyer fees or some shit like that. Who knows? $250K, $500K. It can be all over the place, particularly when you get into politics and political court proceedings. They get really convoluted, and you need people that have specialties in a lot of different fields of law. They tend to be more expensive than people that have common specialties, you know what I mean? And so money has been getting funneled into them again and again and again and again and again and again and again, and it has been sapping the coffers of the RNC. Money is not infinite. And it comes from two places in politics, from donors and then from surplus from other races, basically. So your donors give you the main pool, and they give money to whoever they want to win. You know what I mean? Or they maybe donate to the entire RNC. And the RNC can trying to pick which races that they want to focus on so they can have a controlled, focused spending effort And when somebody's ad buys are up, when it seems like it's time to pull out, when it seems like they've pulled ahead enough that you don't need to spend any more money on them, you can take the leftover allocations from money that maybe they raised or money that they have, and you can push it into another race via PACs, via all sorts of different shit. The thing is Donald Trump is kind of flagging in popularity. He won his fucking the debacle. What do you call it? The primaries, but who really gives a shit? You know what I mean? Like, it's the primaries. He was a former incumbent. He shouldn't be getting primaried. So, like, winning the primaries after you lost a presidential re-election is like the softest lowercase w maybe that can be drawn in the political sphere. I guess it would have been worse if he lost. That would have been even worse. But now he has secured the path forward to running for the president. The problem is he still does have legal fees to pay until he's at least inaugurated, minimum. And even that might not actually eliminate his liabilities as a private citizen, which he is all the time when he's not acting as the president. Even though you get called the president, you're still a private citizen doing private citizen shit, which was all of the businesses that he was running into the ground and the other things that he was doing that he lost a bunch of money on. Money comes from two places in the U.S. politics, and both of them are the Koch brothers. True. To that end, he has been starting to get a bunch of pushback from the RNC, which is the Republican National Convention. I call it the committee too sometimes. I might mix those up in my head, but okay, it's actually Republican National Committee. Yeah, whatever. You know what I mean. The RNC runs the CPAC. There's a bunch of C's and R's. Either way, RNC is basically like the GOP head. It's the DNC's, the red version of the DNC. A little bit more money heavy and a little bit more well run. Up until now, they have been resisting apparently urges to start paying all of Trump's legal bills, which apparently there are extensive, extenuating legal bills. I can't remember, unironically, how much money he fucking owes to who, but I know the numbers are in the hundreds of millions in different directions, and he does not have that much liquid cash, and he would not spend it if he doesn't have to. And that is on top of general bills to lawyers, general bills for lights and electricity, his food, and you can only kick off bills so long before eventually people just stop doing business with you. So he has to pay kind of for some shit. And so they were pushing back, and that failed. And Donald Trump basically took over the RNC, which is crazy. It's what we all wanted to see happen with Bernie Sanders. We all wanted to see Bernie Sanders take over the DNC when they were fucking him. I'm not going to stand for it. I'm not a little pussy baby from Detroit, Delaware. Wherever you're from, it starts with the D, and that's what you have inside you. A D, you're gay. Donald Trump. I'm going to read this. This is reporting from The Guardian by Hugo Lowell. Okay, and we have this down here. I'm going to pull this up. Look at their advertisements. They're being advertised on. Donald Trump's new leadership team at the RNC started the process of ousting scores of staffers on Monday night, clearing out its ranks as they prepare to bring the committee under the wing of the Trump 2024 presidential campaign. Sources familiar with the matter said. Staffers is kind of a difficult word if you've never been around politics, because I know you've heard it 10 million times. If you've ever thought that it doesn't necessarily mean any sort of specific job, and that sometimes it sounds like that person doesn't even have a real job, you are correct. Staffers means that you are basically part of an appointed electoral staff to a degree, right? You might have one of any different multitude of jobs. So you have obviously there's the chief of staff, but then you also have people that are secretaries, cabinet secretary type individuals. I'm in charge of organizing, I'm a department head of this staff and I organize basically our ad buys. I organize putting together our public communications and organizing our editing team. I put together finance and this and stuff. And then underneath those people are still more staffers. They're I am one of her staffers, right? I'm this person. And it could be anything from an assistant to an actual technological professional, an actual tech professional, an IT person could still technically be a staffer. All of those stuff. Just generally when you hear staffer, understand that they are appointed right? So if you have a staffer, generally there's somebody that is put there by appointment, and they can be unappointed fairly fucking quickly. It's usually like you're serving at the pleasure of somebody, so to say. So in this case, the second they go in, it's not crazy that you fire all the staffers. It happens in a lot of stuff. I just didn't know that the RNC was run this way, which is fucking wild, but I guess it is. The RNC is expected to call about 60 people across the political, data, and communications departments. At least 5 members of the senior staff will be let go, and some third-party contracts may also be canceled. One source familiar with the situation described it as an absolute bloodbath. In ousting large swaths of the RNC, the new chair, Michael Whatley, and new co-chair, Laura Trump, the former president's daughter-in-law, moved to reorganize the Republican Party's Central Committee to fall squarely behind the Trump campaign just days after they were formally elected. The RNC is being brought under the Trump campaign to such an extent, the sources said, that the firings are mainly to ensure there is no overlap in roles between the RNC and the campaign. The Trump campaign, for instance, already has robust political and communications teams. And as ever with Trump's operations, the firings are part of a strategy to ensure that only staffers committed to Trump and the MAGA movement are left at the RNC as Trump tightens his grip on the party ahead of the presidential election in November. Chairman Whatley is in the process of evaluating the organization and staff to ensure the building is aligned with how his vision of how to win in November, said the new operating officer, Sean Cairncross. Wrote to emails to the political data and communications teams that were seen by The Guardian. So this is a leak. During this process, certain staff are being asked to resign and reapply for a position on the team. Rough. The email added that if staffers chose not to reapply, they would be terminated from the RNC at the end of March. So basically, they brought all of their people on, and he's terminating them. But the thing that they're saying is basically there's such an overlap that functionally speaking, the RNC will no longer exist as an organization independent of Trump for President LLC or whatever the fuck it's called. Trump's actual like org that is the one that's running it, which I don't believe is very common. Usually you see people being appointed into like higher positions. I remember the DNC being like basically bought out by Hillary Clinton in 2016 when that was like and that was like considered like an untoward like Hillary Clinton, dirty Hillary had to buy her way into the primary. She bought out the DNC. Poor Bernie Sanders, he's just been thrown by the roadside. It was like that sort of shit. With Donald Trump here on the side, he's just done that like and without any reservation. So he's just completely replaced them, which means also that people that are directly underneath him, his literal daughter-in-law, now have access, I believe, to the entirety of the finances of the RNC. So let's see. Let me just double check this real quick. Do elect red, I think that's what it's called. Elect red donations go to the RNC. Win red. Win red is an American, yeah, so that's the Act Blue for all you fucking lib cucks out there. Win red is the Act Blue for fucking Republicans. Is an American Republican Party, GOP, fundraising platform endorsed by the RNC. It was launched to compete with the Democratic Party's success in online grassroots fundraising with their platform, Act Blue. So in 2019, the RNC and the Trump administration applied heavy pressure to incentivize all Republican campaigns to use that platform, to use Win Red. So there were people that were getting donations without being a part of the Win Red thing, which I believe is also part of the RNC. Yeah, okay. The Trump campaign and the RNC received over $5 million in the day after Trump's first impeachment. So basically, it is now a straight to Donald Trump. If there's any fucking division between him and the money that goes to Act to Win Red, I would be surprised, and it's probably a very thin wall. The purge at the RNC, coming days after Whatley and Laura Trump were unanimously elected on Friday as the new RNC leaders, has been widely expected for weeks inside the committee as it became increasingly apparent that Trump would force out the previous RNC chair, Ronna McDaniel. In a speech after his election, Whatley said the RNC would be the vanguard of a movement that will work tirelessly every single day to elect our nominee, Donald J. Trump. And yeah, take control. Whatley and Trump were endorsed by the former president last month after Trump privately met with McDaniel at his Mar-a-Lago club and in fact suggested that she stepped down after Super Tuesday fought on 5th March when 15 states held Republican primaries or caucuses. McDaniel has come under intense pressure to quit over the RNC's lackluster fundraising performance, which Trump blamed her for personally. The move to formally replace McDaniel came after Haley, Trump's last remaining rival, exited the race after Super Tuesday to hand Trump the nomination. The Guardian has previously reported the fundraising was becoming such an issue that the top RNC officials wanted Nikki Haley to drop out of the race weeks before she did so that it could establish a joint fundraising agreement with the Trump campaign to bolster its coffers. Because even if the... And I guess that's... Are we done here? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Betsy Reed, editor of The Guardian. So, yeah, that kind of goes with it. Now, if you were looking for bad news for the Trump campaign, this isn't it. This is great news for the Trump campaign because they now have basically unlimited access through maybe just... There's like a few degrees of separation that, you know, there's you're further away from your neighbors right now than they are from the money that they want to spend. But basically, they have no limits on their ability to basically take in money and take money away from Republican donors and put it directly to whatever use Donald Trump is going to direct it toward, which is, I don't know how much of it is going to be for him to try to win, because even he might see the writing on the wall. I mean, obviously, he probably wants to win pretty fucking badly, but he's also generally... He looks like he's about to kick it at any fucking second, which isn't me, like, cross my fingers kind of thing. It's just like, he's just old and really stressed out. Paying off all of the massive amounts of debt that he's accruing is probably one of the only ways to ensure that his entire estate, if he kicks it, is not going to immediately come underneath like public like scrutiny, basically, by being absorbed. Because if he dies and he's still in crazy amounts of debt and he's personally liable for it, then his fucking family isn't going to see a goddamn cent, especially because a lot of his holdings are, I believe, in New York, where everyone fucking hates him top down throughout the entirety of the state government, basically. And they're going to try to fucking devour him alive the second he fucking kicks it, if he has any outstanding liabilities related to these cases at all. I think, I don't know. I'm not a super fucking expert in shit like that, but that would be my interpretation of his biggest concern. Winning the election is probably great too, but the funniest part about this, and the bad news, is that it is bad news for every single fucking other Republican that is running for office. All of them. Because the money that should be going to help them win is not going to come. Or it's going to be greatly diminished. And it is for sure. Every RNC payout is going to go to Trump friends first. And anybody that stands against him or isn't like 100% in his fucking court or hasn't been is going to get fucking left out to dry. Now, that might sound like, hey, it is what it is. Maybe you should have been nicer to old Papa John. Oh, John Trump. Mar-a-Lago is registered with in NY. That's fucking psychotic. that's actually fucking insane. But yeah, when you want to try to win an election, you want to put your resources where you're going to win, right? Which is why, as irritating it is being left out, you know, when like the Raphael Warnock thing was going on, I still respect people from other states trying to help fucking Georgia win in order to get Raphael Warnock elected, right? Mass grassroots organizing and shit like that. That's not going to happen with the RNC. The RNC is now, the Republican National Committee is now officially a libertarian organization by like all fucking means and purposes. It is fully laissez-faire, capitalist. King fucking Donny gets to do whatever the fuck he wants, whenever the fuck he wants to do it. And all of the money that are going to go in that goes into that is going to go through the RNC first, if it doesn't go directly to one of the individuals. And that could be psychotic. I don't know 100% how all of the donations work. Now, I'm going to guess that where once upon a time there might have been people willing to be like, hey, you know, like donate $25 to me, donate $25 to the Trump campaign through my link. I don't think things are going to be like that anymore. I think everybody that's going to be on the ground level running for elections, people that would get help from the RNC, even though it's a small election, in small amounts, but like significant amounts, you know, $50,000, $60,000 to help this minor district in a purple county, right? Try to switch over, flip for a house seat in a state senate. this person that's running for governor, this person that's running for mayor of a major city in a swing election that needs just like another $60,000 to try to get the edge in ads against somebody. All of that support is going to dry up. And because now I just realized, like, the Act Red, they forced everybody to get on the Win Red thing. There's probably a lot of people who have Win Red tied into their systems, and there's a shitload of boomer fucking moron RNC candidates. Like, they're the oldest and the stupidest and the most tech unaware people out there. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of them have their shit tied to Win Red and just don't even know how to probably like change settings inside so that it's like, oh no, we want 50% of all contributions to go to us, not 5%. So who the fuck knows what's actually going to happen? I can't wait to see what's going to happen this year. It's going to be fucking psychotic, because in a very extreme way, all of the issues that I am talking about constantly with like grassroots organizing and all this sort of shit, getting together and trying to get some wins, that is going to be where the Republican Party is faltering like the most. This is probably the biggest year in my life where the focus on the presidential race, no matter how intense or unintense it is from either side, is just completely overblown, like in a psychotic way. Like you should just vote progressive. Right? Obviously, because do it so that we can maintain power at the top and then build power up from the bottom. The Republicans have unironically thrown every fucking egg they have into one basket, and that basket is sitting on the fucking toupeed head of their glorious leader, who can't live that long. And I think he's unironically draining the party in a way that I don't know if they can ever recover from. I mean, maybe they can, maybe they can't, you know, and I'm not like that deep into politics and knowing how, like, go watch a Sam Cedar type person if you want to get a little bit deeper into it. The lackluster fundraising, it comes from a number of things. First and foremost, Republican policy is unpopular with almost everybody. Almost everybody. Once Republican policy gets passed, their culture war talking points are fine. You know, their culture war talking points kind of score some points here and there. You know, people love to fucking dunk on the transes and the gays. But you can only hear about drag queen story hour so many fucking times before you like stop having people come into work anymore, because they're just leaving your city permanently to go to somewhere that's a little bit more blue so that they can have some sort of job security. You know what I'm saying? A lot of his fucking dude, millions of people died, or millions of people got sick and or died during COVID. And a lot of those were Trump voters. The people, and they're still getting killed because they're all anti-vaxxers now, which is great. I mean, I support you 100%. If you're going to be my enemy, I'm not going to work hard to try to convince you to get vaccinated. Your lack of vaccinations is a vaccination for the rest of us in a genetic sense. But quite literally, like, they're keeling off. They're getting like long COVID. They're getting brain fog, disintegrating, and they're just not replacing Republicans at the bottom at the rate that they used to back in like Reagan's America, because there is no economic security to make people believe that it's time to pay less taxes and like disintegrate the working class. Like it's just not paying out for you. You know what I mean? It's not like it's going to be an overnight thing. Like, hey, just don't fight anymore because we've already won. It's just they have started an indelible trend toward losing generally in a democratic context outside of places, for sure, basically outside of all of the places where they have not managed to just cheat the system in their favor. And of course, that's the fucking big risk right now, is that they want to win, and if they can cheat to win, they will cheat to win, obviously. But a lot of the cheating to win requires favors and influence and bribes at times, and that money comes from donations, from donors, and it comes from major political like PAC committees and stuff. But if they're all fucked up and scared and worried and weirded out by where the fuck the money's going, because like when you steal from the government or when you steal from the American worker, that's one thing. But Trump is fucking robbing the richest people in America casually in front of their faces. Like, we're paying for you to win. Well, to win, I've got to go and pay my bill. Can you get this one for me? Like, my man is not paying. He is not paid any dividends. Donald Trump has done nothing but hand L's to the billionaire class and the millionaire class for the last 4 years that he has not been in office. Because it might be nice for you if you're like an up-jumped like Groyper psycho or whatever the fuck, and you want to say like the N-word and shit. You're like, hey, Donald Trump's gonna get in there. It's gonna feel good. Shane Gillis got a stand-up comedy special. Wokeness is over. You know what I mean? That shit might fucking sound good to you, but if you're actually like a wealthy person, you already spent a lot of money. You spent a lot of money in 2020 trying to get Donald Trump elected, and he fucking flubbed it. Flubbed it real bad and lost control of the House and the Senate for a little bit, or either vice versa. Now the only thing that Republicans or conservatives really and like capitalist conservative types that want to just abuse the working class, the only thing they have certain control over is the Senate and the judiciary. The judiciary is a fucking L on everybody's hand. But the thing is if you lose enough of the presidency and the legislature, then the judiciary can get fucking completely overruled and get flipped out, right? You can start doing completely different crazy shit there. And you know, hey, fucking judges die all the goddamn time. Maybe fucking what's his name, Clarence Thomas will finally have the heart attack we've all been praying for. But basically, like, real normal wins and shit, like, you didn't get any of those. And so all these rich people, they're like, hey, we paid for this. These are like literal bribes because we want you to win and then give me this thing. Fucking Biden, either Biden gave it to them now, so they're like, well, fucking a Biden win is a win for me, so I don't give a fuck to give you any more money because what can I get out of it? Or Biden, or they just didn't get it, which they're now a little bit out of money. You know what I mean? They lost some cash, and now they're like, well, fuck. You know what I'm saying? Is this going to be a good investment on this next run? Because we have found that outspending the Democrats alone in advertising does not necessarily equate to a win. And so where am I going to put my money? And then also, like, if I put my money toward you, are you going to be putting it toward winning actually? Or are you going to be putting it toward mitigating your losses in all of these court fucking proceedings that you're going through? Like, which is going to be the one? And I think shocks to the confidence of the donor base for the Republicans like that are pretty fucking significant. It's not good. They're not a very confident and not a very happy people. It is not 2020 or 2019 again when it was, or not even 2019, but it's not even fucking 2015. You know what I'm saying? When it was Trump season, 10 million people, whatever the fuck he wanted to say, were at inauguration and shit, and they millions of red-haired fucking college students screaming at the fucking sky that he fucking won. It's like not that anymore. He doesn't have that kind of like support. A lot of those people are dead. Like, fuck, dude. It's been 8 years, man. You know how many fucking 90-year-olds kicked it in the last like that's your base. That's your voting base. And like a lot of young people aren't like hardcore Republican, and a lot of the young people that are like, they say they're pro fucking conservative values and shit, they just can't even fucking vote because they're like under 18, or they're just too fucking insipid and lazy to get off of Helldivers 2 for more than 5 minutes to go to the polls, which is, hey, that's a fucking win for me. Let's see, that's kind of the end of the segment. I'm gonna go ahead and talk to chat. The RNC has fallen. Billions must default. Batman Begins moment. True. Tyler, they teed up those corruption issues, and a 2/3 House and Senate would fucking destroy their 5/4 majority, or they could just pack the courts. Yeah, I think packing the courts is probably the best thing to do. It wouldn't even be packing the courts necessarily. Just the judiciary is too small for any human being on earth to think that represents the American people. Like, I can't even remember. I don't even think there's districts to the Supreme Court. They just get like fucking appointed or whatever. It shouldn't be appointments. It should be some sort of election thing. Like, just there shouldn't be a luck aspect when it comes to the judiciary being appointed. Like, oh, thank God someone fucking died when we had enough like people in the House and like the president like was on it so we could appoint it. Because like Obama we should have just gotten in our fucking one guy, but like they just stalled. They just like literally broke the gentleman's agreement and just didn't let it happen. So like, you know, there's no reason literally at all to not try to do it, because they'll just keep doing it in the other direction. You just kind of need to, if you want to eliminate corruption, you've got to get rid of half the fucking, you either got to get rid of half of the judiciary, or you've got a packet full of people that are not fucking corrupt sociopaths. And I think like some sort of elected variant of that, I don't know how to do it necessarily, but like I think that would be for the best. maybe you could have it be semi-appointments, but not by the executive. Like, the executive branch should have nothing to do with it. It should be something more along the lines of, like, maybe all of the circuit court judges in America, like every circuit court judge, you know, they get to all like throw 3 names in a hat, and then those 3 names, whoever gets to be the top of it, those 3 names get like voted on by the American people, and they can see their records and stuff. And you can just say, like, no one's allowed to spend any money. No one's allowed to spend any money. State bar associations can oversee this shit, because like they I fucking let the goddamn lawyers figure out who the fuck they want to be in charge of the lawyers. I know that sounds like psychotic, but unironically, we've already let the politicians do it, so who the fuck knows? Trial by combat, only the young. Also, there should be a term limit. A maximum absolute single term limit of like 10 years for a justice. I don't see any reason for there to be more than that at all. I don't know why we would have anyone in an elected office for more than 10 years in America. Fucking all of the senators should be limited to 6. That way they can just get shit done. 1 6-year term, and then you don't ever get to be a senator again. 1 6-year term, and then you don't ever get to be a congressman again. You can be a congressman and then a senator, and then a fucking judge, and then the president. But then, like, after like 40 or 20 fucking years of that shit, you don't get to do any more stuff, okay? You gotta fucking go to Montana and fly fish like a fucking rest of the old fucks. We need a government regulatory committee that makes more money the more corrupt shit they find. Let them grind it out. I mean, I'm about it. The amount of fucking people that are hyper rich that are terrified of there being more IRS agents just means that I want double the amount of IRS agents. I want so many little bean counting fucks with pocket protectors and little black clip-on ties just flicking their fucking abacuses back and forth. I want that shit so bad.
Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.